that killed at least 18 people and wounded more than 40. The funeral was for a Muslim man who'd been part of a militia trying to get ISIS out of the country's north and west. There's more. On Thursday, ISIS also took responsibility for a double attack in southern Beirut that killed more than 40 people and wounded more than 200 others. The group said in a statement on Twitter posted by its supporters that their members blew up a bicycle loaded with explosives on a busy street, and when people rushed to help, a second suicide bomber's explosives went off, killing and wounding yet more people. Eyewitnesses say there would have been even greater carnage if a Beirut man out on a stroll with his little girl had not tackled the second suicide bomber, pushing the attacker away and taking much of the impact of the second bomb onto himself. And on Wednesday, 9 people were killed in a terrorist attack in Egypt's North Sinai. According to news reports, a group opened fire at a family home and then blew up a car bomb near it. Most of the victims were members of a single family, including 2 children under 3 years old. There's more I could add to this terrible list. An alleged attack on a village in northern Niger by the Nigerian terrorist group Boko Haram on Wednesday. The murder of 3 Turkish police officers in a bomb attack on Tuesday. But you get the point. Paris calls out to us because many of us have been there or wish to go. For many of us, it is the city of our dreams. The truth is there is terrible violence being perpetrated all over the world in places many of us will never visit by some of the same people and the same ideology that led to the massacres in Paris. These lives matter. They matter because when we draw the line between those near and far, and those who look like us and those who don't, those whose names we can easily pronounce and those which we cannot, we participate in the same kind of dehumanizing that allows people to do such awful things in the first place. Getting back to my neighbor, I'm not sharing her name, but later I'm going to drop off a card and some food and my best wishes for her family. And when I do, I will try to think of another name, the name of the man who's credited with saving unknown numbers of lives in Beirut last week by tackling a suicide bomber. His name is Adel Termos. I will try to remember it. For Sunday, that's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Michelle Martin. We're back next weekend. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great week.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from Moo, working to help businesses stand out with a range of business cards and printed products for telling a company's unique story. Also offering Printfinity, the ability to print a different image on every card. More at moo.com. And TIAA-CREF, a global financial company dedicated to delivering financial outcomes that matter. TIAA-CREF, created to serve, built to perform. Learn more at TIAA.org. This program is brought to you in part by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Coming up on 93.9 FM is the TED Radio Hour, tonight finding quiet in our busy lives. TED speakers consider how we can make a conscious effort to step back and escape from our fast-paced and increasingly noisy world. That's coming up on 93.9 FM and on AM 820. It's Marketplace Weekend. And tune in tomorrow, take a week-long crash course on how to become a better listener, starting tomorrow on Morning Edition. Every day, our new health podcast, Only Human, will offer tips on enhancing hearing, listening, empathy, and memory. Hear it on Morning Edition and participate at onlyhuman.org. Clear skies for the rest of tonight, low around 46. Starting your week on Monday, sunny skies, high near 61 in the afternoon. It'll remain mostly clear for tomorrow night, low around 41. It's 58 and clear right now at 6 o'clock.
WNYC is supported by Documentary Festival Doc NYC, now through November 19th, with over 200 premieres and events, plus hundreds of filmmakers and guests in person. Lineup and tickets at docnyc.net. Join New York Public Radio's Community Advisory Board for a meeting with Senior Editor of Data News, John Keefe, tomorrow at 6:30 p.m., 320 West 13th Street. Details at 646-829-4000 or wnyc.org/cab.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM, New York. Just keep listening.
This is the TED Radio Hour. Each week, groundbreaking TED Talks.
TED.
Technology. Entertainment.
Design. Is that really what it stands for? I've never known that.
Delivered at TED conferences around the world.
The gift of the human imagination.
We've had to believe in impossible things.
That truly
true nature of reality beckons from just beyond.
Those talks, those ideas, adapted for radio. From NPR. I'm Guy Raz. Coming up,
When it comes to our attitudes to introversion and to quiet and to solitude, we truly are poised on the brink of dramatic change.
Just the simplicity of singing is calm.
It's in stillness that we prepare ourselves for dealing with the realities of life, which are often very difficult ones.
this episode, quiet. First, the news.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. French fighter jets have launched massive airstrikes against Islamic State targets in the group's de facto capital, Raqqa, Syria. A jihadi training camp and a munitions dump were destroyed. 12 aircraft, including 10 fighter jets, dropped a total of 20 bombs. The jets launched from sites in Jordan and the Persian Gulf in coordination with U.S. forces. Belgium has issued a global arrest warrant for a man believed to have been directly involved in the Paris attacks. Terry Schultz reports Belgian authorities have already arrested 7 people in connection with the killings.
An international manhunt is underway for at least one suspect in the Paris attacks, the brother of one of the suicide bombers. Publicizing a photo and other details about Salah Abdeslam, authorities warn the Belgian-born French national is dangerous and no one should try to detain him themselves. The Brussels prosecutor's office won't release details on those arrested in numerous raids in the Molenbeek neighborhood in Brussels, but it does reveal that 2 French citizens who'd been living in Brussels were among the perpetrators who died at the scene. 2 rental cars with Belgian registration were found in Paris linked to the attackers. One of them was then driven back here and intercepted. It's not clear if the driver is among those being detained. For NPR News, I'm Terry Schultz in Brussels.
France is observing 3 days of national mourning. Monuments and museums are closed as people lay flowers on street corners where their countrymen were gunned down. Lauren Freyer has more.
Soldiers slung with machine guns erected barricades outside Notre Dame Cathedral. Inside, the Archbishop of Paris held a memorial mass with victims' families. Outside, tourist Stuart Tuvey says he's shaken.
An hour or 2 after the attacks, I just walked back from dinner into my hotel, and the concierge said, "I'm going to ruin your night. Look at this map of these attacks." It was sobering because the night before I'd walked around those areas. It was very sobering.
Makeshift memorials line the streets where more than 130 people were killed. For NPR News, I'm Lauren Freyer in Paris.
The city of Boston, itself scarred by a terrorist bombing more than 2 years ago, is ramping up security in the wake of the Paris attacks. At a news conference in Boston, Police Commissioner William Evans said that citizens will see a difference.
Already we've been going over the list of the events coming up over the next week, and last night we were outside. We were very much involved at the House of Blues. We were at Symphony Hall last night, so we're obviously working closely with all the private venues.
Evans says the goal is to make sure citizens feel safe and are safe. Michigan's Republican Governor Rick Snyder is putting on hold a plan to welcome Syrian refugees to his state, pending a full review of security procedures. He says while Michigan has a proud history of immigration, safety comes first. This is NPR.
And this is WNYC in New York. I'm Sean Carlson. The NYPD has extra units and special counterterrorism officers monitoring major tourist sites like Times Square and French cultural institutions in the wake of the Paris attacks. But speaking today on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, NYPD Commissioner William Bratton said the coordinated killings at random night spots shows the security challenge.
One of the things we see in Paris is there's so many targets. You can't protect everything.
Well, that's the issue, that anybody thinks they can't is crazy.
The NYPD has 400 to 500 officers working at any one time who are specially trained and equipped to deal with a terrorist attack. Bratton says the NYPD will be paying special attention to learn how the Paris attackers communicated and why French authorities were caught off guard. And New Jersey Governor Chris Christie says the United States needs strong leadership, especially after the recent deadly attacks in Paris. The presidential candidate spoke yesterday at the Republican Party's Sunshine Summit in Orlando, Florida.
Please go home tonight, turn on your televisions and watch the news. The world is desperate for a strong, secure, smart, and tested American president.
Christie says he sees the world as it really is, but says President Barack Obama sees it as a fantasy. He also says his experience best qualifies him to be president. The governor has struggled to gain traction nationally, but has climbed in polling in New Hampshire. He said he initially planned to talk about the economy and deliver some jokes, but the Paris attacks that killed at least 129 people changed his mind. It'll be clear for the rest of tonight, low around 46. Sunny from Monday, high reaching about 61 in the afternoon. Mostly clear tomorrow night, low 41. And then looking ahead to Tuesday, sunny skies once again, a high only reaching about 51 in the afternoon. It's 57 and clear right now in New York City on this Sunday night. You're listening to WNYC at 6:06.
Support for NPR comes from the Simons Foundation, working to advance research in basic science and mathematics. More information is available online at simonsfoundation.org.
You were carrying around literally all the pain and trauma that you had experienced in the first 18, 19 years of your life.
When Kevin Powell got a college scholarship, he thought he'd left his tough childhood in Jersey City behind. Then he got kicked out for violent behavior.
You're going to act out because there was no healing going on at all.
I'm Anna Sale. Hear my conversation with writer and activist Kevin Powell at deathsexmoney.org.
It's the TED Radio Hour from NPR. I'm Guy Raz. John Francis is an environmental activist. And about a month after he decided to stop talking, things started to get quiet.
Even though I wasn't speaking, I was thinking about conversations and arguments that I had in the past. And, oh, maybe I should have said that. Or next time I'm going to say this. And it took about a month before the conversation stopped rattling. And so when that happened, I could hear myself, I think, for the first time in a very long time.
That was in 1973. And on his birthday that year, John Francis stopped talking. Now, this was about 18 months after he stopped doing something else that seems both eccentric and impossible. John stopped riding in cars. And it happened on a particular day in 1971. John was walking along San Francisco Bay when two oil tankers collided. And he watched as thousands of gallons of black oil seeped into the water. And so on that day, John Francis vowed to give up all forms of gas-powered transportation. And he decided instead to walk everywhere.
So I argued a lot with people about my walking and how one person might make a difference. I don't think I was convinced myself that one person could make a difference. And I decided that I would give my community a gift of my not speaking so much.
Wait, so people would come up to you and say, hey, get in the car, man. Why don't you just stop doing that? And you would argue with them and it just started to get you down?
Yeah, well, it's just like I was, what I was doing mostly was kind of defending myself and arguing, yeah. So I wanted to stop that.
So you just decided to stop talking?
Yeah, but just for one day. That was my idea, was just to not speak for one day, but it just went on. But if I had started and someone said, John, if you stop speaking today, you're not going to speak for 17 years, I might not have gone on.
Finding quiet isn't always an easy thing. I mean, it took John Francis 17 years. The world he lives in, the world we all live in, is noisy. And it's usually the loudest people who get most of the attention. So today on the show, quiet. Ideas about quiet people, quiet minds, and finding stillness in unexpected places. During all that time that you didn't speak, was your inner voice the same? I mean, did it sound the same as the voice we're hearing now?
I don't think so. I think my inner voice was different somehow.
Later in the show, John Francis returns to explain how he functioned without speaking for so long, and why, after 17 years, he decided to start speaking again. But first, maybe you're not about to stop speaking for 17 years, but maybe you do consider yourself somewhat of an introvert, a person who prefers to be alone, a person who by definition, draws his energy from solitude. But extroverts.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Ballmer!
Extroverts are a little different. This is a slightly infamous clip of former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer, who we can safely say gets a lot of his energy from being around other people.
I have 4 words for you. I love this company.
Another famous extrovert, Bill Clinton.
Tell me how it's affected you again. You know people who lost their jobs, lost their homes. Well, I've been governor of a small state for 12 years. I'll tell you how it's affected me.
Lots and lots of celebrities and entertainers are extroverts. They're outspoken, confident, charismatic. Surely you remember the late Joan Rivers.
What's your grandson want to do when he grows up? Does he know yet?
Right now, he's 10. He wants to be a football player, but, you know, stupid.
What do you want him to be?
Gay.
You want him to be gay?
I want him to be gay. Who else is going to give a damn that I